QBs with their futures in doubt. Starting with Miami, after 6 seasons, the Dolphins and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa could be headed for a breakup. Cutting him could force Miami to take as much as a $99 million dead cap hit. A trade of Tua might lead to the team to eat some of that nearly $60 million guaranteed to him over the next 2 seasons. First-year Miami GM John Eric Sullivan spoke about it today at the Combine. Take a listen. It's new on SportsCenter.
We're evaluating the entire roster, right? As it pertains to Tua, I know that question is coming, so I'll just get ahead of the curve. We've had conversations with Tua and his representation. Everything's on the table, including the potential of a trade. We don't know which way that's going to go. There's a lot of different factors at play, a lot of conversations being had.
Let's bring in our NFL insider, Phil Yates. And Tua Tagovailoa's tenure with the Dolphins could possibly come to an end. A lot of money to eat up with that contract there. However, where's the best landing spot for Tua?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm having a hard time finding a spot for Tua as a starter in 2026 in the NFL. Obviously, he had a very disappointing season this past year. The appeal for a team would be that Tua is going to be free if he is released by the Dolphins because of all the guaranteed money. Let's look at backup options, though. If I'm Tua, there might be a part of me after a difficult career or difficult finish to his career in Miami that is motivated to go to a place like the Los Angeles Rams to back up Matthew Stafford, where obviously he would only play if Stafford gets injured, but it's very good infrastructure. And we have seen quarterbacks go to places with the intention to be a backup and land on their feet a year later. Sam Darnold, of course, the most recent example when he went to San Francisco knowing he would not play behind Brock Purdy.
Yeah, definitely a weird situation with Tua and all that money that's coming.
A lot of money right there.
A lot of M's coming with him. Let's turn our attention to the NFC West. Kyler Murray's future has been in question as well. GM Monty Austinford spoke about it today.
Yeah, I've always had a good dialogue with Kyler, and I'd say it wasn't up to what Kyler wanted. It wasn't up to what any of us wanted as a season as a whole. And so when you had the kind of year that we had, there's a lot of room for improvement. All options are on the table for us. Okay, we got Kyler, Jacoby, Keaton, all under contract. As it pertains to that position, as it pertains to every position on our team, we're going to look at every avenue to improve.
You heard it right there. All options are on the table. Where could be the best landing spot for Kyler Murray if the Cardinals part ways with him?
Yeah, let's start there. I do think Kyler Murray's days as a Cardinal are going to be done soon. And I know that people are going to say, when you mentioned the Minnesota Vikings, what about Kyler Murray's skill set suggests he is a fit for Kevin O'Connell with some of the quarterbacks he has recently had success with, Kirk Cousins and, of course, Sam Darnold. My answer would be it's not that he's stylistically like those players. It's that I believe in Kevin O'Connell as a quarterback developer, a quarterback whisperer of sorts, and this is not a robust market, right? It's not a good draft for quarterbacks beyond Fernando Mendoza, and there really aren't many free agent quarterbacks that are going to be particularly appealing around the NFL. So a guy like Kyler in a second act might be appealing to Minnesota.
Look, you mentioned Kirk Cousins just a few seconds ago. Kirk Cousins, his future also in question. The Falcons GM addressed it earlier today.
I did talk to Kirk and his representation, Mike McCartney, letting them know that we will release him on the first day of the league year. I just felt that was out of respect for Kirk and Mike, his agent, and what he's done in his career. I owe that to him. We owe that to him to allow him some clarity going into free agency.
All right, so we know Kirk Cousins, he will be released. So which team could benefit from the most from adding a vet like Cousins to their locker room?
I actually thought that Kirk Cousins could stay in Atlanta on a restructured deal for one more season as they wait for Michael Penix Jr. to return. There aren't a lot of obvious options here for Kirk as well. The Cleveland Browns were a team that made sense in the past because of Kevin Stefanski's presence there, and I do wonder if Cleveland will continue to explore options on the quarterback market this offseason. I think they're more likely to kick the tires in the draft. They have a somewhat crowded room right now with Deshaun Watson and 2 players they drafted last year, and Shedeur Sanders and also Dylan Gabriel. But if Cleveland doesn't feel like one of those are their answers, then Kirk Cousins could perhaps be a fit to go back to Cleveland, where he has been linked to at the very least in the past.
Look, I feel like there's been so many quarterbacks in Cleveland at this point. Maybe they just need to figure out what they have right now.
That's probably true.
Figure out what you have right now and then try to move forward with what you got.
I think the theme, though, this offseason for people that are saying, like, my team's going to land there on quarterback, there aren't a lot of inspiring options this offseason.
And with that, welcome into the 2 p.m. Eastern Sports Center. I am Matt Berry. I mean this wholeheartedly. One, I wish you were here. Two, I'm glad it was good enough to at least get into Bristol today, because I know you guys have been dealing with a lot out there. So again, live vicariously with me and through me for the next hour of SportsCenter.
Look, I'm definitely living through you vicariously. I had to go through a lot of snow to get here. But, you know, while you're hanging out with celebrities and out there on the beach, the rest of us are really working, Matt. Like Steelers GM Omar Khan answering everyone's burning questions this afternoon. Will Aaron Rodgers be back in black and yellow come next season? His answer, it's new on SportsCenter.
The door's open to have Aaron back. You know, I've had conversations with him. I spoke to him last week. You know, Mike McCarthy spoke to him, and you know, he knows how we feel about him. And you know, right now we're proceeding. You know, he's a free agent and he's not on the roster. So I mean, he knows how we feel, and I think we know how he feels about us. It was a good experience for both sides. Unfortunately, we didn't reach our goals on winning the games that we wanted to win at the end. But you know, there's a mutual respect there.
Let's bring in our NFL insider, Louis Riddick, just to break some of this stuff down and have some good football talk with him. Omar also said in that he doesn't believe the Aaron Rodgers stuff is going to drag out like we've seen in years past. So from an organizational perspective, Louis, what do you think is the best thing for them to do at quarterback?
Yeah, Matt, look, I think obviously having a bridge situation with Aaron is what's best for them. It may not be the kind of vernacular that Aaron Rodgers wants to hear, but that's just like they got last year with him, Mike Tomlin, and Arthur Smith, which I think they will be able to. I think obviously they need to continue to look at what Will Howard brings to the table at this point in his developmental process. And then obviously I think when you're talking about the draft, and I know you have Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson up there, but we're looking for a long-term solution at this position. And then I think Ty Simpson obviously is the guy who's right now in the wheelhouse for Pittsburgh, where they pick 21st in the first round potentially.
Yeah, we'll talk with Mel Kiper about that coming up in just a bit, because it is a fascinating situation. You can only Band-Aid with a veteran quarterback for so long. And Adam Schefter said this morning on the radio that people aren't ruling out the possibility of Rodgers going to the Vikings and signing with them because they want to create a competitive environment for J.J. McCarthy. So is that something, Louis, that you might think fit not only for Rodgers, but from the Vikings' perspective?
Yeah, actually I do. I mean, obviously there was a lot of smoke surrounding that situation a year ago. And I think this is something that really J.J. McCarthy in particular really would have no other choice but to embrace. And quite honestly, I think he should embrace it. I think there's a lot of question surrounding where he is at in his developmental process and whether or not he would benefit from having someone like an Aaron Rodgers to push him, quite honestly, to kind of sit back and learn from, and then let the best man win. Look, if it winds up being a situation where JJ is still the guy who is, going to be their franchise quarterback going into the future, then those cards will play out. I mean, obviously that wouldn't be something that Aaron would want, but I think this is definitely something they need to pursue, and they need to pursue vigorously this year, considering how quarterback and that whole situation unfolded for them a year ago.
Yeah, way too early to fold up on J.J. McCarthy. And by the way, if Rodgers did do this, he would pull the ultimate Brett Favre, hitting all three teams that he did, including the Packers, Jets, and Vikings. Switching gears now to a situation with another quarterback, Lamar Jackson, his opportunity to sign a long-term extension. Eric DeCosta, Ravens GM, spoke about that earlier today. It's new on SportsCenter.
As you guys know, Lamar and I have an agreement. We handle business kind of in-house internally, as you all know. That worked well for us the last time, and we will continue to have that policy moving forward. Have spoken to Lamar about a lot of different things over the last month. He's been very engaged. As I said, he was a big value to us in the coaching search, but we'll continue those conversations moving forward.
And, Louis, it is a conversation they have to have. It's been a complete overhaul there in Baltimore for the first time in Lamar's career. So in your estimation, what is the most important thing for Lamar aside from contract with this new situation in Baltimore?
Yeah. It's all about, really nurturing the relationship between Jesse Minter, the head coach, Declan Doyle, the new offensive coordinator, and Israel Wolfork, his new quarterback coach. I mean, that's a lot of change for a guy who has won multiple MVPs, all while John Harbaugh was the one coaching him and kind of directing the ship down there as the head coach. I don't think there's any question as to who is the tip of the spear in that organization? Who is the guy that can really dictate, or let's just say at the very least influence the decision-making around there like Lamar Jackson can? And a lot of things happen down there based upon when he wants them to happen, how he wants them to happen. And this contract situation is going to be no different, especially considering the fact that he does his own deals. So, yeah, that relationship with Eric DaCosta is also going to be important because that $75 million cap number that he's going to carry over the next 2 years, the last 2 years of his deal, they're going to want to get that down. They're going to get that more palatable and then continue to go ahead and build out the rest of this roster. So it's all about relationships in Baltimore going forward.
And we remember last time Lamar did negotiate that deal by himself, so I'm glad you pointed it out because it took probably a little longer than a lot of people expected. Let's switch gears now to the defensive side of the ball. Maxx Crosby, his future with the Raiders has been in question since they put him on IR the final 2 games of the year. Crosby wasn't happy about it. We keep mentioning him as a destination guy for other teams. Their GM, John Spytek, spoke about that today and his future with the franchise.
Max is an elite player, and I've been very upfront from the start when I got here that, you know, we're in the business of having really good players on the team, and we need a lot more of them. And, you know, it's hard to build a great team without elite players.
Look, it's lion season. It's the draft, right? Everybody goes up there, smoke screen. They lie about what they're going to do. They're never going to tell you the truth without the media. But what do you think now of Crosby? Do you think he stays in Vegas, or is he too attractive of a prospect for people to kind of trade around for?
Look, first and foremost, let me say this. I've known John Spytek a long, long time. I was with him when we were both in Philadelphia. He's a good friend of mine, someone who I respect tremendously. He's right. You can't really get the ship turned without elite frontline players, especially playing premium positions like Maxx Crosby. That being said, look, John knows where his team is at as far as his program build. He knows it's devoid of talent. He knows he needs draft assets, and he needs a bunch of them, especially on the defensive side of the football. So you're always doing like a cost-benefit analysis, okay?
Yeah.
We know what the cost is of keeping Max. We know what it means if he's on our football team. We also know what the benefit could possibly be if he wasn't on our team in the way of draft picks and what that could do to help build out this roster. There's no way that he's not going to go out there right now probably and say, hey, look, of course he's on the market. Hey, somebody give us your best offers. Of course he's going to want people to think, of course, you know, Max is a franchise player. But this is something they have to entertain. They have nobody on the defensive side of the ball other than Max that is a game changer. And you aren't going to win in the AFC West, and you aren't going to win in the AFC at all overall if you don't have more than just one guy, and they need to get as many as possible.
And sometimes it's identifying the fact that you absolutely need a reset with your franchise that gets the thing going. And we'll see. We saw with Dallas last year, Micah Parsons, a different situation that they didn't need to reset, but they got rid of a frontline player to see if they could acquire some draft picks for it. Louis Riddick, awesome. Good stuff. Thank you.